You hear the news, guys? Borderlands 4 isn't going to be $80. It's going to be $70. And they're just going to take some content out, lock it behind DLC, paywall. That's all they're going to do. And then they're going to be like, all right, $70. We'll just take $10 worth of content out. Which is probably what they did anyway. Some people have gotten their hands on Borderlands 4. Is it worth it? Is it worth $70 plus? Because it's not going to be $70. It's going to be $70 plus the DLC cost, plus the skin packs, plus whatever else they decide to sell you.
So I just got the chance to play about 3 hours of Borderlands 4 at the 2K offices in California.
3 hours? That's enough information to gather to give it a 10 out of 10. I think the Borderlands 2 opening was like 2 or 3 hours long before you actually started getting into the gameplay. So I guess it's kind of a sneak peek of how it's going to work. Not really going to be a sneak peek of how the game is going to be, though.
And I have some thoughts. Full transparency, 2K flew me out to their studio to play the game in person on a PC.
I don't dislike whenever companies do this, whenever they fly out journalists and like YouTubers and things. Usually it's to secure some access journalism. They fly out people that they like and who are friends with, and they throw $30,000 parties.
Instead of doing like a remote thing. And as a result, they're sponsoring this video. But I did clarify with them, I'm allowed to say whatever I want to say, positive or negative. And they agreed to that, which is always reassuring that a developer and publisher is willing to like take that risk for me.
Yeah, and I'm probably just going to take this whole video with a grain of salt. I'm going to watch multiple videos of people who have played Borderlands 4. And I'm going to gather my thoughts that way and make my final conclusion. Well, that's kind of redundant. Make my conclusion. Am I going to buy this game at $70? Probably not. But, you know, if it's going to be a 10 out of 10 game, actually is going to be the best Borderlands, I might.
To say something either positive or negative if I didn't like it. And it shows that they're confident in the product that they have here. And I think that's a really good thing. And it's backed up by my experience with the game, because what I think they have here is something pretty cool. It's shaping up quite nicely, at least based on what I played, and I'm going to tell you about it in this video. Like I said, we got to play about 3 hours of the game at their offices in California. I played off of PC, and I was playing on mouse and keyboard, as you'll see in my gameplay footage.
But, you know, there was a lot of this sentiment, though, before Borderlands 3 came out, where people were like, it's pretty good, man. They got something good brewing. And then it came out, and the story was just trash. The characters were trash. The jokes were trash. The gameplay, repetitive and boring.
Also specified that the version of the game we were playing was an older build from months prior. So while I was playing in mid-May, they said this was months older than that, and that tons of improvements had already been made, which is cool because the version I played was pretty good. So I was like, oh, it's better than this? Cool, I like that. So I want to clarify that, you know, things are only going to get better and better. And even so, what I played, I thought was pretty solid, especially for this point in development. So I want to give them credit for that. It seems like they're making really good progress.
I really don't like the way the world looks. It's too detailed, I think. There's too much detail and it looks weird. And the frame generation is going to look really weird. That's not what I'm looking forward to. I wish it was a little bit blockier, not as much detail like in previous Borderlands. So I feel like it's going to be hard to run. It's going to be probably poorly optimized, just like every Unreal Engine game that comes out. And that's not to say anything bad about Unreal Engine. That's just companies making games not optimizing their games correctly because they're lazy.
Portion of the game I'm allowed to share with you today is called the Fade Fields. I did also get to play a late game vault, however I can't share footage of that, at least not yet. The grasslands are a section of the open.
You also got to keep in mind that he's playing on the computer builds that this game was built for. So he's probably playing the best version. They fine-tuned it to work on those computers. You got to keep that in mind. May not be the case.
World that they've built out for this game, and it gives you a taste of just what they're doing differently here. The map is expansive, it's big, and they also have added in a bunch of new dynamic elements too, dynamic encounters and little things that'll pop up for one player but not others to keep the open world feeling fresh, so it's not just like one gigantic linear level that's sort of open. They've actually tried to make it feel more alive and, again, dynamic. They've also added a handful of new movement.
But do we care? Do we really need that? Do we really care if it's more open world and not just bigger? Do we even care if it's bigger? I don't know. It depends. Is the story good? What other elements are good? What's bad about it?
Mechanics that complement the old ones. Things like double jump, zip lines, glides, dashing, vehicle traversal, all of it combines into something that really flows nicely and that they tie into also in.
Does it flow nice? It's going to have to flow nicely with like all of the character builds and whatever else is going on. We'll see. Sometimes stuff clashes.
Environmental challenges, puzzles, and even some of the boss arenas. And I love how some of these you can just stumble onto while you're exploring. This one that I did against Sydney Pointy Legs, a sort of mini boss in an arena guarded by a bunch.
I do like that. I do like that kind of humor. Let's keep that kind of humor going. Let's try and not do the Twitter humor this time.
Of other enemies. This was not a boss fight I intended to kickstart. I was just
let's take the vibes from Borderlands 2, like the DLC particularly. The DLC, I think, had better jokes than the base game and better like humor. Not even really jokes, not really trying to be funny, but the Sydney Pointy Legs, that seems like Borderlands 2 DLC stuff right there, and I love it.
Exploring the open world and then found this like mini boss fight with a ton of crazy loot and unique elements to it. And it was just something that happened. And
what's with the really fat boss health bar though? I'm not into that.
Personally love that because I'm a player that's motivated often by challenges or again just cool discoveries.
Like they put that fat health bar up there, but they took away the level bar at the bottom. I miss the level bar. I like the level bar at the bottom. It's like over in the corner now.
It's why I love games like Elden Ring, is finding a boss hidden in some corner of the map you thought that there was probably nothing in, but then you find a cool, unique boss fight. I love that kind of thing, and it's very much present here in Borderlands 4, which I really enjoyed. I mean, just rounding a corner thinking you were just going to find like a cliff and then finding something like this was really cool. And of course, because it's a Borderlands game, there's tons of weapon variety and they fine-tuned all sorts of different aspects of the weapon system. So now each individual part of the gun is broken down into different manufactured components, and when the gun spawns, those components can complement each other or fight against each other, but you can build out synergies within the player character skill trees to make sure that you specifically are.
Okay, so I do like that. I do like the fact that sometimes the guns are just like, they could be really good, but there's something garbage about it. You know? I really like mechanics like that. Like, this SMG, it slaps. I think that one was literally called the Slapper. But it slaps, but your movement, it's decreased to the point where you're basically like barely moving. Like you got to switch your gun to a different gun if you want to walk around.
Are benefiting from certain manufacturer components or from certain play styles within certain weapon archetypes. That's a really complicated way of saying that there's a bunch of weapons that have all sorts of crazy unique aspects and components to them, and you can build out your play style however you want.
Oh man, we could like straight up customize our own guns. I think we're getting to that point. That'd be a game changer for Borderlands. I really like doing that in video games. Rainbow Six Vegas 2, that was the last game that I played where you could customize guns like that. Call of Duty, you kind of could, but not really like Rainbow Six Vegas 2 you could. Because you could like customize guns, man.
And you can get some crazy complex and nuanced builds based on how you like to engage in certain encounters and based on the playable character that you choose to go through the game with. We had access to Rafa and Vex, and I did try both of them. My footage with Vex is actually from the Vault mission, which again, I can't show you. And she was probably my favorite, but they both played very, very differently. And I could see experimenting with each of them a good bit, finding which one you like the most. One thing I will say I didn't really get a good handle on was the writing. Of course, we were playing pretty specific sections of the game and we didn't really get a big deep dive into the writing or the narrative or the characters and how they interact. Most of our—
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about. Like legit, I figure the gameplay is going to be all right. At least it's going to be as good as Borderlands the pre-sequel. What I'm worried about is the writing and the characters and the humor, particularly the humor, because the humor is what drives the whole soul of the game. And Borderlands 3 felt like internet humor, and I didn't like it. I don't want any more of that. Let's get away from that in Borderlands 4. Let's try and like come up with a vibe like Borderlands 1 and Borderlands 2 did.
Time with the game was about playing the game, not listening to like cutscenes or dialogue. So I can't really speak too much to how the tone of the writing is, or whether it's super campy or super cliche, or if it's more grounded. I'm not totally sure. What I do know for sure, though, is that we had developers on the project that were in the room with us. Specifically, we were in the room.
Man, I really want this game to be good. So bad. I want to get right back into Borderlands again. I miss it. Every so often I go back to Borderlands 1 and 2, not 3. If it's not better than 3, I don't see myself going back to it. I don't see myself playing Borderlands 4 at all. At least until it goes on sale for like $10.
With Anthony Nicholson and Graham Timmons, who, as you can see, are the senior producer and the creative director on the game. Of course, you'll recognize them from this PlayStation State of Play that they did at the end of April, showcasing this game initially. And they said something very interesting, which, again, I haven't really had the chance to confirm myself, but they said they specifically wanted to make sure the tone of the game and the writing was grounded within the world itself. They didn't want the dialogue or the jokes to feel like they were just memes from out of nowhere that had nothing to do with what was going on.
Yes, please. That's what I want. That's what I need. But also, you got to get that vibe. It also had like this weird vibe and like using language that they thought was trendy. Using trendy language does not work because trends come and they go. And now looking back, it's just cringe. I played Borderlands 1 and 2, and it's still funny because it wasn't trying to be trendy. It wasn't trying to use the language of the time.
Wanted it to feel like all the characters actually lived in this world and existed there. They said they didn't want dialogue to feel out of place. They didn't want like an offhand comment to feel like, oh, that was just their attempt at a Hawk Tuah joke. Like they didn't want that. They wanted it to feel native to the world. And that is what I would hope to hear. Like that's a good thing to hear for me. But whether or not that ends up being the case, time will tell. Again, I just didn't have the chance to really sink my teeth into it, but they're saying the right things, at least in my opinion. I prefer it to be more grounded in the universe as opposed to just chasing cheap laughs, But
yeah, but like if they call a gun the like Hawk Twacker, and then they put in the description of the gun the flavor text, spit on that thing, I can get down with that. I can get down with stuff like that. That's fine. The general language is what I'm worried about.
Speaking of cheap, it really seems this game is not that. They have put a lot of effort into little bitty quality of life features too. They have things like full crossplay for up to 4-player co-op if you choose. Even little bitty features like the ability to customize the difficulty per player during co-op are present, which means that if you were playing this game in a big co-op party and maybe one player on the team is struggling with co-op or struggling with the challenge of a boss fight or something, they can customize their difficulty independent of yours.
I don't like the customizable difficulty stuff. I mean, it's fine. I don't like that it's in the general game. It's like it's trying to include everybody. It's trying to be inclusive. I don't like that. I like actual challenge. I don't like the fact that like, oh, this is a little bit too hard. I'm gonna tone it down just a little bit. I don't like that. Maybe some people do. I don't know. It's just weird that they're putting it in a Borderlands game. Because used to, you couldn't fight a boss or something, you would leave, go level up, come back to the boss a level higher, and then destroy him. Whatever happened to that?
All of the loot generated is also independent, which means everybody is welcome, regardless of skill level. Everybody can have the experience they want to have.
You can't ninja loot anybody's bling bling anymore. And that fucking sucks. I thought it was hilarious. I hated it when it happened to me, man. But that was just a part of it. You're all vault hunters. It's anarchy out there. You're just working together to fight a boss. You're not really in it together. You just had a common goal. We're pussifying these immature games. I hate it.
And something that made me smile was, of course, the mention that they are also bringing back 2-player split screen co-op, which...
That's good. Can we have 4-player split screen? We could totally do that. It's totally viable. We used to do that in games. What happened?
Which is a staple of Borderlands. I played Borderlands mostly in college with my roommates, where we would just vibe and chill in the basement of the little house we had rented for college, and we would just play Borderlands.
I think I was in 9th grade playing Borderlands on accident. My parents picked it up, not knowing what it was, thought it was cool, saw a commercial for it, and was like, let's go get that game for them. I got Borderlands, and it was badass, man. I'd never heard of this game. And then me and my buddy Eric and my buddy Petey, we just played it constantly for days. And it had been out for a little while. So that all the DLC had come out by this point. And back then, they had DLC on disc. So I went and bought the disc at GameStop randomly. I didn't even know about it. I didn't know it had DLC. And I bought the DLC pack on disc at GameStop, and it was used. And I was like, okay, downloadable content. And I didn't even know it was downloadable content. I thought it was on the disc, right? So I pop in the disc and it was like, do you want to install this? And I was like, what? I didn't have enough room for it. So then, before I could even use this disc, I had to get a new hard drive for my Xbox 360. So I had to talk my grandpa into getting me a new hard drive so I could play this DLC. Game changer, man. That was like the first DLC that I knew of and that I bought. Didn't know of DLC before that. That was like my first instance into modern gaming, or what would be modern gaming. DLC on disc, man, installed straight to your drive. And like, I let Eric and Petey borrow the disc, and they used the disc to install the DLC on their drives, so you could share it. It was that was probably, in hindsight, a terrible system. Easily could rip that off, but it was cool. We each had to have a copy of Borderlands at least.
For hours and hours when we probably should have been studying. And it was great. And I look back on it very nostalgically and I love it. And hearing that maybe we could do co-op split screen again is just really cool to me. And it's something a lot of other companies and games have dropped and abandoned, but they're doing it for Borderlands 4. And I think that that's awesome. And I want to give them praise for that because I think we need more of these games that have couch co-op. I love.
Yeah, now whenever I go over to my friend's house, I can just play Borderlands 4 over there. I don't just like have to stay home and play Borderlands 4 with him over an internet connection. We can just play it on his giant TV. Or he could come over here and play it on our giant projector.
Of couch co-op, it's fantastic. So that's awesome to hear. And of course, there's other quality of life improvements, such as overhauled loot, the drop rates being adjusted, trying to make sure that legendary weapons feel special and unique. All of the things, again, that I think you would hope to hear in a game like this. As for the moment-to-moment gameplay, I will say that most of the missions that I played, which again, were not many, given this was a more narrow selection of gameplay, most of the encounters were fairly straightforward, fighting through waves of enemies, working my way through a large base, or
yeah, they're probably not going to show you the good stuff. But like, yeah, I don't mind the more like down to Pandora areas that are kind of more boring, less soul to them. But like, they're cool too. It's still fun. As long as it's not everything, and as long as like at least half of it is interesting and crazy.
or into a larger boss arena, only to fight one massive boss that had his own set of waves of enemies. Again, all pretty standard Borderlands stuff. It won't come as a surprise to you if you know these games that it works this way. And that's why it's a good thing that the gunplay is really tight. I mean, Borderlands is kind of made or broken on its gunplay and the variety of its weapons, and based on what I experienced, they did a pretty good job here.
I think every Borderlands has done a good job with the guns for the most part. I think really it's all about the story and the characters.
The standard moments where I might feel like a weapon wasn't as good as a different type of weapon, or maybe this one needs a balance adjustment against another, but that's stuff that I'm sure they are fine-tuning as we speak, and so it's not really fair for me to complain about.
And they're going to be fine-tuning it all the way through the release of the game. For like probably a whole year, they're going to be fine-tuning, nerfing stuff. And then the DLC is going to come out and they're going to do it again. It's going to suck, man. The actual game isn't going to be there until everything is out. I hate that. I hate that nowadays, that we've come to this. That a game's not finished until everything's out and they've moved on to the next project. And even still, they'll change the end game like they did in Borderlands 2, and I fucking hated it.
About an early version of the game maybe having a shotgun that's too OP or too underpowered. The one thing, if I have to give one note, is that sniper rifles do not feel powerful enough. That's the one thing. Like sniper, marksman rifles, they didn't feel powerful enough to justify like the really slow speed, the ADS speed. Like it just didn't feel right. It felt like they needed to be more powerful. I told them this at the studio as well, and they seem to already be aware of it. So I'm just preaching to a brick wall, I guess, at this point. But
who knows if they're gonna fix it though? Even if they're aware of it, they might not have time, or there might be way worse problems that they have to address first.
You know, nonetheless, I'll say it. But far and away, my favorite part of what I played were the boss fights. The vault that we got to do, which was a later game section, which again, I can't show you just yet, but trust me, was really cool. And the various boss fights that I engaged with in the open world, one of which I accidentally found, and another was part of the main story that we were encouraged to go through. And of course, you can go back through these even after you've completed them to continue grinding out higher level drops on certain weapons if you want them. You can pursue it however you see fit. If you want to just tackle the same boss 15 times, you can do that. Or if you want to just kind of go meander through the open world, you can do that too. What amazed me though was just how open-ended everything was laid out. Like typically in Borderlands, at least the way I've traditionally played them, is it's pretty straightforward. Like you just kind of go from place to place, you follow these objectives. There might be some side activities you do here and there, but in general, you're going through the motions more broadly. But with this game, I often had moments where I just kind of paused and I went, okay, where do I want to go next?
Yeah, I kind of don't want that from Borderlands. I kind of like the fact that I just like know what I'm doing next. I know what I'm supposed to do, and there's some side quests if I feel like I'm not quite leveled up enough, or if I want a part to be easier. That was how you managed the difficulty, is you went and did side quests if you thought the next part of the main quest was too hard. Didn't have to adjust it. What I'm worried about, I'm worried they lost the soul of Borderlands.
You know what? I'm going to go look over there. And that little moment of freedom was really, like, frankly, refreshing. It was really cool, especially to go and then find something there like a cool, unique boss fight that other people in my play group didn't get to see. And that was one of the cooler things, was after we finished playing, being able to compare, oh, did you do that side quest? Oh, did you find this boss? Did you see that thing over there? What dropped for you when you beat that boss? You know, that's one of the things that I think makes Borderlands special and that people really connect with. And I was really pleased that it's all present here. It's really tight, and I had fun. I don't know what else to say. I had fun. Now, of course, because I only got a little sliver of the game, it's...
Well, yeah. Borderlands 3, I had a lot of fun with Borderlands 3 for the first part of it. And then it just like kept being the same kind of slog and kept just going through the repetitive motions, and the upgrades didn't really do much. They just slightly changed what your power did. So yeah, like the playing it a little bit, yeah, you're going to have fun. It's not to say what it's going to be like when you get halfway through it. Or really 10% of the way through it, because even when you beat Borderlands, you're supposed to play it again and again and again.
It's too early to say anything specific about like the writing or the balance of co-op encounters or how the game functions when you're 10 hours deep and you've got a bunch of extra loot, how the in-game economy works, whether drop rates are balanced or not over the long term, and how the end game works. We don't know any of that, and we won't until launch. But the point of a preview is to give players a taste of what they have here, and hopefully to entice them into buying the game when it launches. And I think they did a pretty good job of that here. While I would have liked to have played more of the game without any sort of training wheels or guardrails or anything, I had a good time, and that is not something I can say about every game I do previews for. So I really enjoyed this. I'm excited to see what the game holds when it launches. Everything from the gunplay to the movement to the boss design, the open world layout, it all seems pretty solid, and I had a good time, and I'm excited to see how they fine-tune this closer to launch.
Yeah, I can't wait for this game to come out, because I really do want it to be good, and I want to play it, but I'm gonna wait for people. I'm gonna probably wait for that game ranks before you buy. You know what I mean? See what a couple other people that I watch, see what they say about it. See what they say about the end game. The end game is what I'm worried about, because that's where I'm gonna play most of it. Most of the game is going to be played in the end game for me, because I play these games like MMOs.
because all sorts of things like AI behaviors within enemies, the balancing of certain weapons over others, all of that's going to be overhauled and improved as we get closer to launch. But based on what I played, I think they're already in a pretty good spot. But let me know what you think of Borderlands 4 in the comment section below. Does it look good to you? Are you going to check it out?
It looks good. I still don't know anything about the humor and the vibes and the characters and all that. Gameplay looks great. The environments look great. I'm kind of worried about optimization. I'm worried about it might be too big. Areas might be too big. It might be too open. I don't know. We're going to have to see. I'm going to have to see what some Borderlands fans that I know think about it, who are definitely going to get it day one full price.